Not yet. All right, we got to get a pause in there. So start off with the episode quote. Another popular fallacy is to suppose that flying machines could be used to drop dynamite on the enemy in the time of war. That is from William Pickerington from Harvard Aeronautics back in 1908. Kind of fitting with episode 6 guest, Airman First Class Austin Murray, who's actually kind of helps drop dynamite on the enemy. A little bit more refined than back in those days, but welcome, Austin. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for not calling me Mr. Miller. That's which you've been calling me all for the time that I've known you now for 8 years, which is good. But you can call me that if you feel comfortable. Awesome. So Austin is actually, like we said, he's an Air Force. Been in the Air Force a couple years. He's actually a local kid here. Was born in Columbus, raised in Lewis Center. Graduated with my middle son from Olentangy Orange High School in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. So right after during that time I've known you, I can't believe it's been 8 years, right?
Yep, 8 years.
I still remember over there wrestling and taking out your brother, all of the kids. It was I can still do it though, I think, but I do remember that. Remember that night? That was pretty fun. Yeah. But so during your time here, growing up here, you played a bunch of different sports. Some of the guys some people have seen tonight or before tonight, your career and what you started to try to do in the Air Force. So you've always been a pretty physical guy, outdoor guy. You played baseball, wrestling,
played football for a year and tried lacrosse for 2.
This is awesome because there's some good stories that I know about him. The one time Austin did take up football, he was on special teams, right? I remember. And a tough kid, and he literally got his bell rung on a kickoff. And it was like every parent's worst nightmare. You're like, my kid will be fine. And it was like early in the season too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the tackle heard around the world. Yeah, it was bad.
And it was like one of the first. It was unbelievable. And actually, it's kind of it's like one of those things that happens when you're young. You don't realize that it has effects on you later in life, and we'll talk about that later on.
Injuries.
Right. So growing up, also one of the big things in your life was, from what I know, was sports, also music, right?
Yep, music. Big. Started out in piano, played for about 9 years, and then left for the military, but played for 9 years, and then started picking up guitar when I left.
And we got his guitar later. He's gonna guitar us out for the ending. I think it'll be a good way to do it. But so the piano thing, was that something that you want to do, or mom and dad?
So honestly, I guess I really had an interest in it. So I actually played like violin for a year. Thought the teacher was kind of, but then played saxophone for like 4 years. But when I was younger, my dad said, should learn piano. You'll maybe get a chick one day doing that. You might beat out the other guy. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll start. So me and my brother started, and from then
how's that working out for you guys?
Could help a little bit better, but I mean, it is what it is.
Good.
Turn some heads.
Yeah, but your brother,
yeah,
Colin plays as well.
Yeah, he's I feel like he likes more different types of music than I do. He's more meticulous in nature. I'm more of like a real loose and kind of flowy. So I like a lot of like jazz and stuff on piano, a lot of blues. Yeah. So a little bit different.
It was pretty cool. And I'll post some of the videos afterwards about that, because I think that's pretty amazing. We did some stuff that it's always surprising. My family, none of us have the music.
Just the height. Yeah, just the height.
My father-in-law was down here, and he was like rolling his eyes. He started picking up the bass like 4 years ago, but before that, he wasn't doing anything. And he sounds really good because, of course, he's like in his mid-70s and he's deaf. So that's probably why. And everybody in the band is in their 70s, so that's probably why they think they sound good. But yeah, the music thing was always it's interesting. It's funny that you were able to pick, do athletics and then also music. What did you like better, music or athletics at the time?
Honestly, I don't think I can really compare the two. They're both kind of different and pretty complicated. So it's like just a different part of me that I get to expand on. And I feel like I'm one of those people where I like to try to learn as many skills as I can and have as many hobbies as I can, just to try new things and, you just express yourself in different natures. So I like them both equally.
Wow, you're making me feel bad for never picking up. My hobby is drinking and learning about bourbon, so thanks for making me feel bad, Austin. I appreciate it. So you graduated in 2020. We've made a pact here. We're not going to talk about the politics of the pandemic, but I did want to bring this question up because it was kind of a pivotal time. Your senior year was when the pandemic
Yep.
kicked off. How was that as a senior in high school? As a lot of people, as a parent who has a child who's going through that, I feel like it was a really tough time. How was that as, an 18-year-old kid?
I mean, at first, like we were kind of hearing about it, and we were kind of joking about it, like kind of equating it to like like Plague or something like that on your phone, like a game, and then like a week later we're out of school, and it was kind of weird from there because no one really knew what to do. So kind of felt like we were cut short, because senior year is probably my most fun year of school, other than some good years in sports and stuff, but over like all my teachers and everything was just more fun senior year. So it just felt like you're kind of cut short, and graduation was, pretty last minute. It was kind of scrambled, but we did what we could, but I don't really have any hard feelings.
Yeah. So it was like, to me, it was funny because as a parent, I loved the graduation because of the drive-by graduation. It was like super quick. You didn't have to sit there. You'd have to sit there for hours sitting there reading names like Nathaniel Miller, just wait on line. But it was like kind of just like a drive-by. It was pretty neat. But there's some schools I've heard that are still doing that, but we won't talk about the pandemic anymore. But I thought that was interesting to bring up because I felt like I've always felt like you guys got a little cheated.
Yeah.
And I have a son, Nate, who's probably, I've talked to him about that. I feel that way. And then you guys, he headed to college and you headed off to your military career.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a lot of your classmates, because there's not how many classmates you know of you didn't have that went in the military. Because I remember there was a ceremony for that, wasn't there?
There was a couple that went. There was a few who were on the fence, but I don't think many of those ones really came in. I know a guy who won the Navy that I was pretty close with, and then another one of my friends went in the Army that I was close with. But the other ones I'm not too sure on if they really chose to, follow down with that path or not. But
so during your senior year, you actually left for basic training in 2020, but you actually early enlisted, delayed entry program for the Air Force in 2019.
Yes, sir.
Right. So while you were doing that, what were you doing to your delayed entry?
So initially, when I wanted to start up, it was more so my brother looking at the military at the time, and that was like pretty quick that he kind of considered it. But I didn't find anything in school that specifically stuck out to me that I was like, hey, this is what's kind of fit for me. I didn't really know. So started looking into the Air Force just because my dad naturally said, Air Force is a good branch to join. And I know you're the Army, so you probably don't agree with that.
So you're laughing at yourself. I mean, Joe, you sent him in the wrong
5-star hotels, know.
Better TDY, better deployments. You can tell it, but we're making a joke that we're definitely, the next person is not going to be an Air Force guy. Two Air Force guys in a row is enough. We're going to have to switch it up. But yeah, because your dad actually was in the Air Force, right?
Yeah, he was in stationed in Key West and Whiteman, who was security forces, and yeah, he had a good time with it. But I think it's a little bit different now, that career field, than it is now. But
yeah, and then your dad actually got out of the Air Force and then joined the
law enforcement for
Columbus Police Department. He's been there for a long time. He's actually working right now, so hopefully you're able to listen, Joe. Pretty amazing career you've had there. So you did the delayed entry program, and what you initially enlisted for, I talked about or posted on the page, is that you initially entered the Air Force with the hopes of becoming a pararescueman, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know there's the special force. The Air Force does have special forces, pararescue being one, TACPs,
CCTs, and
right, the TACPs, which for the people that don't know are the folks that call in all the munitions, the combat control, or the people are like forward deployed traffic controllers, right? They control aircraft. And then you have special reconnaissance. And then what most people will know from the Air Force is probably the most famous are the pararescuemen. So the pararescuemen have a pretty unique mission that they're the only unit that's in the military that's specified to recover down pilots and things like that. So pretty amazing. Amazing group of people. So you left in 2020. You went down to San Antonio.
Yep.
Basic training.
Yep.
Which was like 3 weeks or what? I mean,
yeah, 8 weeks. Not that
8
hard,
days
right?
or something.
Yeah, 8 weeks, and then the graduation ceremony. It was kind of sad. Like 3 people showed up, and it was just other TIs from other squadrons because it's COVID and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So that was kind of crappy, but
yeah, because Mom and Dad weren't able to come down, right? Yeah, that's right. That was one of the time when the DoD had canceled all that the graduation stuff. So another interesting dynamic. So then after basic training, for those that don't know the career field after that, you actually attend the preparatory, which is the Air Force Special Warfare preparation course, which is 9 weeks, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what does it take to get into that career field? You just can't decide, hey, I want to be a pararescueman and go through that. What did you have to do prior to being able to do that?
So like we talked about a little bit earlier, was that when I was in depth, most of what I did was development, and something that they have for entry to the course is called a PASS test. So it's pretty much a PT test, but to their standards to get into special warfare. And usually just, hitting the minimums on that test, it's not really going to, help you out any. So you have to be really physically fit. Just, that's square one. But being mentally fit is probably much more important. But if you're not even physically fit, it's going to be really hard to get through. So in the preparatory course, it was very structured. You know kind of what you're doing every day, and a lot of swimming, a lot of running, a lot of rucking, and mainly calisthenics. We didn't do a whole lot of lifting. And, you get smoked, and it was a good time. But a lot of those people who did come in kind of unprepared and didn't do their research, didn't really prepare, they really struggled to even get through that course. And that course wasn't really meant to fail people. So they just kind of were able to skate by. But once we got to selection, usually the first couple people out.
So if the prep course, how many are you allowed to talk about? How many people made it, didn't make it? Some of those people, like, the reason I bring that is there's the things he is talking about, the people that are in the military or have been in the military, especially when it comes to some of the special warfare stuff, the attrition rates, the actual course specifics and things like that are things that aren't allowed to be spoke of. So if those are uncomfortable, then I get it. We can move on. So after you pass the prep class or the prep course, now that goes to selections, right? So selections is when it.
Yep. So I actually had an injury about halfway through prep, little past halfway, and it held me back to go to that selection course that I was slotted to go to. So they ended up sending us to the Chapman Annex, and there's like all these teams there that can train. So I was there kind of rehabilitating to get ready for selection. So a couple months of training, and then once it was time to go to selection, I was locked and loaded and ready to go.
So the injury was that the concussion again? Or, okay,
yep, that was concussion.
So we talked about it earlier. It was something that happened to him, earlier on, about a year or so, or a couple years before that. That came back. I think your dad told me that you crashed heads with another swimmer.
Yep. So we were taking the test in the pool, and like I said, comes back to those people who aren't prepared. When someone's not prepared like that, they can end up becoming a liability. And unfortunately, I was just kind of unlucky with that.
So a couple months, and I remember that it's another interesting time there. You were like locked away in a barracks room by yourself.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
which I feel might be part of the training. Do it. Your dad was filming me on some stuff, and I was like, oh my god, they have. But I mean, you were like, for the record, it wasn't like you were in a tent or anything. You were like,
no,
you were being taken care of. I mean, they were just shuttling you food. It was kind of like prison, I guess.
Yeah, their programs are actually great. I mean, the level of coaching and trainers that they have there, it's remarkable how good the resources they have to get people prepared. So I was taken care of pretty well, but definitely did suck getting taken out of training like that.
Yeah, I know. So then now you had the selection. So how long is selections normally? Because are you guys not? Is it?
So I guess it all kind of depends per class. I don't know if I can say the specific day, but if you look online resources, on the pipeline, it'll tell you about a month. Yeah. But like I said, it can kind of vary, per class and kind of what the instructors and the cadre are, what they're enforcing.
Right. So during that selection, do you have pararescuemen or hoping to be pararescuemen, hoping to be TAC Ps? That's all four of those MOSs are together one time, correct?
Kind of. So how it used to be, pararescue had their indoc, I believe it was 10 weeks, and that was their whole course. So they'd go through the indoc, and that included, intro to scuba. They called it like pre-dive. They didn't have a preparatory course back then. So it was just guys through, basic training, getting pulled out who wanted to try it. Didn't have, hardly little to any training to go for. And the guys who made it, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that guys could have made it back then, without any training, the resources that we have now.
We were hardcore.
Yeah.
Hardcore. Come on.
We didn't have roads back in my day. But yeah, they're, tough guys, and they'd make it through. And nowadays they kind of got rid of the indoc. They took some of the principles from it, and some from, combat control school and what was then SALT, Special Operations Weather Technicians. That's now the Special Reconnaissance career field. But now they take those three, the PJs, CCTs, and SRs. They all go through selection together. TAC-Ps go through prep with us, but after prep, they kind of go do their own thing. They have their own TAC-P selection, so they don't go through the assessment selection that PJs and stuff go
Is that
through.
the same place? We won't talk about it, but it is a different place, a different thing. And then for the most people that are here in the Army, like the TAC-Ps, if you were deployed, we had those guys with us doing some pretty amazing stuff and all that. I guess the only one, when I was looking at it, researching and, refreshing myself, I don't remember if I've ever met a special reconnaissance Air Force person. I thought that was, I did read a lot about that today because I was like, I don't think I've ever come across those guys, but pretty amazing. So I guess you're in selections, things are going okay. And then like a lot of things in life, they don't go okay. So, so you want to talk about that? What happened or?
Just going through selection.
Yeah.
So when I was going through selection, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it's confusing. You're going through it. It's the hardest thing you've ever done. Your stress is through the roof, but it's nothing that you really can't manage. It just kind of depends on, being, like I said, physically fit, mentally fit. And, sometimes if you get hurt, that can take people out of training pretty fast. I think one of the biggest things that hurts too going through selection is like when you have someone that's really close to you and they quit, like that really hurts because you're like, hey, like, we were ride or die, and that happens. I had that happen to me, but you just kind of have to keep moving. And, it's almost like it's kind of this weird zone of like relying on people, but not relying on them too well. You have to work as a team. You're also competing, right? Because you want that spot to get selected. So there's this kind of fine line of, hey, we got to work together, but at the same time, like, hey, I need to do better than, these guys. And you can't get too attached to people. So that was like kind of the biggest thing. And, I ended up, not really making it to kind of how I wanted to make it. And, I blew the horn, and that was really a hard decision because, you're kind of like sleep deprived, and, you just feel like you can't do it anymore. And you kind of have to reap the consequences, then after.
Because I think like if you look at it, he's beating himself up, and he actually sent me a text, I think not far after that happened. And I think if you look online, I think the figure is to say, like, I think it's a 75% of the people don't make it through selections. And then there's also a certain number that even if you do make it through, that 25%, you may not even be selected into the program. So I've always told you, I told you back then, I'll tell you now, you should always hold your head high. You chase the dream. A lot of people don't have the balls to even give it a shot. So what was your, if you want to add, what was your breaking point? What made you decide to say, hey, I'm done with this? It's something that you've been pursuing for so long.
Honestly, it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, we were, I guess I can't talk about, specific events, but it was like one of those hard days, and, there's not many of us left, and, we had this big event going on, and throughout the event, there was kind of multiple things being held, and we could hear the horn blowing, and we're kind of like, hey, aren't we at like a different phase in the course? And, before I knew it, we were kind of up there on the, facing that event. And, I felt like I was just so physically spent. I just felt like my body wouldn't let me go any further. And I remember kind of trying to tell myself like, hey, like, if I get out, tell myself that, I felt like I really couldn't go any further. It wasn't like hey, I can't do this anymore, I'm scared. And, I just kind of had to tell myself like, no, I couldn't go any further. I was, blowing bubbles underwater.
Right.
And that was kind of where I had to draw the line.
It's time to stop. Which is, I mean, it's, if you talk to a lot of people that have made it through the special operations field, you hear a lot, but you also see people that didn't. That's the same thing. I mean, like I said before, thank you for sharing that. That's a big thing. It's not for everybody. And truly, if you do know some of these folks that are in special forces, they are kind of some really
they're
interesting people that have that ability to, like Austin mentioned, where your body says it's gonna quit, but their mind can go past that. And like I said, I always hold you in a high esteem for giving that a shot. That's pretty amazing that you even went for it. Do you regret quitting? I mean, I guess that's the next question. I was gonna save that for later, but
I think everyone who quits does regret it in a way, but it's kind of this weird feeling of, I almost like to describe it as like, it's almost like the stages of grieving. because you kind of get over like each kind of phase of, being angry, being sad, then you kind of come to just different phases in that. I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head, but you really try to, reason with it. And it's a long process. It took me, sometimes I think I'm still kind of getting over that. And I think the best thing that you can do is if you're in that position, it's like you can't dwell on negativity for the rest of your life after something like that. So you either have to get back into it, you have to accept what happened, or you have to refocus on something else. You have to use that and be like, hey, this might not have worked out for me. I'll either attack it again or, go to something else, direct that towards something else. And I think I'm at that point now where I'm like, hey, maybe that wasn't for me. Maybe it just wasn't my time. You have to just reattack something else or, get your head back on the right course.
Which is, again, I think it's amazing, like your maturity and how you answer that. And I was super excited and actually bumped somebody. I didn't talk about this earlier, but Austin's actually home on leave, so that's kind of why we thrusted him into the podcast, and then also moved the day because I have to go pick up your friend tomorrow from college. But I was super excited because not that to bring somebody on that has not accomplished something, but to bring somebody on that has, suffered adversity quick in their career. A lot of us that were in the military, even if you weren't in the military in your civilian life, you've had adversity. And I just think that your answer was super mature on how you answered that. I think a lot of us don't, even at my age when we failed something, don't attack it with such a rational thought process. Yeah. You get over it eventually, but there's always that part of your mind that wish that maybe things had gone differently. So
right.
I'm pretty proud of you, young man. So you decide after that.
So
you got to reclassify. So
yep.
Did you have a bunch of options to reclassify, or?
So initially after leaving selection, we quarantined because of COVID. So everyone actually had pretty much everyone in the course had COVID. So that kind of sucked. And so after selection, everyone kind of had to quarantine who left the course. And after quarantine, some of us were already reassigned jobs while we were in quarantine. So some people were able to ask about trying out for TAC-P, because TAC-P is one of those career fields where they take a good amount of people, and their selections, it's a different animal. They don't have like the water as much as us, but they have a lot of their own kind of things that are really tough. It's kind of hard to compare the two. And some people were fortunate enough to go try out for that. Then there's some other career fields, combat support jobs. So SEER and EOD. SEER wasn't taking anybody at the time, and a few guys were able to get into EOD. I really didn't, like I said, back to that kind of mentality. When you're broken down like that, I really didn't feel like I deserved even trying out for stuff like that. And you almost kind of have that mentality of like, hey, I just failed this one thing. I don't want to fail out of something else. And then
like the fear a little bit.
Yeah, just really just drop your, your confidence level. So I ended up just kind of eating the bullet and, left in the hands of the Air Force, see what they give me. And yeah, that's where the story carries on.
It's a good story. I mean, it's interesting. I wondered that because I know you were talking about some stuff, and I can understand that. You fail something, you probably weren't in your best mindset to say, "Hey, let me give something else." I mean, I think a lot of people go into self-protect mode, and I can understand. So you decide or the Air Force decides that you're going to become a weapons armament technician, right? Mm-hmm. And so you head to Wichita Falls, Texas. You just headed to another part of Texas, and then that was where your initial training was, and then to Destin, Florida. So why are there two different? What are the two different training areas for them?
So Wichita Falls, Texas, Shepherd Air Force Base. So that's like the tech school for all the maintainers on aircraft. So they send you there and you learn, at least for me, it was fundamentals. So we learned fundamentals of loading bombs. I didn't know anything about weapons armament when they told me about it. Anything about maintenance, I didn't know anything about those career fields. So I was completely open-minded to it, honestly. And, it was cool. So we learned fundamentals there in Shepherd. And for my specific aircraft, they didn't have the training for it there. So they actually sent us on, a little vacation down to Destin, Florida for fall-on training. It was awesome. We got to learn about our actual job, and I feel like tech school is one of those things where you skim over a lot of stuff, but once you actually get to your unit, that's when you learn the brunt of, the job, the career field, everything that kind of follows with that, even other, what you're going to be doing on other aircraft if you decide to do that.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of how it went.
And again, Destin, Florida, which again, the Army has places like Fort Bragg, North Carolina, awful places like that.
Fort
Destin,
Hood.
Florida is not that. Yeah, Fort Hood, Fort Sill. Great. Maybe we should stop making Air Force jokes because there's a definitely better part of it. So, I guess after that you graduate, you work on your aircraft. You get a little bit of experience on your aircraft, and then you get your first duty assignment, which is right now. I didn't say it earlier, but you're on leave. He's at Austin's actually stationed in the UK with the 48th Fighter Wing of at Royal Air Force, Lakenheath.
Yep.
So, no, your parents weren't super happy about you going over to the UK for 3 years. I think I told your dad one time that it's good for you. Pretty exciting. So, how was a year? How long you been in the UK now? Less than a year, right? Or
Yep, just under a year.
Yeah.
I love it so far. I mean, England's very different from kind of life as we know it in the US.
They speak the same language, though, right?
They do, but not really. It's two different types of English. It's cool. So the people there are a lot different. Kind of what they do is different, but England's a really good place to travel from. So in terms of at least a location in the military, you're not like right in the action, but our mission in the UK is awesome. We're always busy. We're always doing stuff. Supporting the the greater good of the DoD. Whoever needs support, like we're doing it. So I feel great about the the mission and stuff.
So on that role, so you're on a British.
Yeah. So kind of how that works
Yeah.
is they allot us, I guess, the ability to occupy it. So it's technically like their base and stuff.
Do they really allow us though?
It's the Queen's land. So, they.
But I mean, do they allow us or do we just pretty much say we're going to do that? I mean, I'm making a joke. That's right. The Queen's land.
It's the Queen's land.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's the Queen's land.
You're getting converted here. I love it. So, so are you there? So we didn't talk about it. You're actually you work armament for the F-35,
yep.
which is one of the newest platforms in the Air Force and for NATO forces as well. Because I think the British have are those F-35 stationed there as well from the British, or are they in different spots, or are you not allowed to?
So I don't really know too much about where our allies kind of have their stuff stationed. Right. The F-35 is pretty popular. A lot of our you'll see. If you look online, I mean, it's really popular and it's 5th generation, so it's got really cool technology on it. A lot of the even our our enemies are building kind of similar things that they can kind of like compare to them, but it's a really unique aircraft to work on. So it's been a lot of fun.
So serious question: F-35 with one of the pilots or Tom Cruise in the F-18 Hornet and the new Top Gun, which is coming out this week. Who wins? I mean, Maverick is. I mean, he's got to be 72 years old, like Mike, who's here, still flying the Hornet. I still got to go with Maverick over. Give me a call sign of one of those guys over there.
Look at Ukraine. Some old jet. He had the skills. So I don't know.
That's pretty great. So, so are you? So as an Army guy, we had another guest on a couple weeks ago. He actually, I think, was in. Like, I guess the level behind you would be he was an armament guy. These put it together and would take it to you guys who would then are you in charge of like loading the aircraft, or what is exactly your everyday role and what you do?
Okay. So I guess maintenance is kind of broken up into different levels. So you always have people who are it's kind of like broken up into people who work on the aircraft, on the flight line, and then you have people who work on the aircraft in like a back shop, right? So hey, this jet's really messed up. We need someone to take it back in the shops. It needs some TLC, it needs a lot of help. So I'm on the flight line. So we're loading on the line, live jets, so we do that kind of mainly. I guess that's the major difference between them.
Okay. And so are you doing all the maintenance on the aircraft or just armament stuff?
So yeah, so crew chiefs and there's other career fields too for the jets. So I guess legacy jets and some of the newer jets, they're kind of broken up with some of the career fields that are applicable to them. Crew chiefs are kind of like the main mechanics. They've fixed tires. They'll put pretty much like they'll refuel them, they'll put fluids in them, whatever kind of like overall maintenance needs done. But as a weapons armament guy, we really just do stuff that applies to that. The guns, the loading racks, stuff like that.
The cool stuff.
Yeah.
You can say that. He's like, cool stuff. Like when I go back, I don't want to tell the crew chief that his job sucks, but we do the cool stuff. So for on one aircraft, like at one F-35, like how many people are maintaining that? Is it like one crew chief per like 3, or is it? I mean, how does that? Does it break down that easy, or?
It really just depends on the scenario. I mean, if it's a minor thing, I think that a small team of guys can usually fix them. If it's something more major, you're going to see more of those experienced people. And there's different levels in the career fields. You have like your 3 levels, your 5 levels, 7 and 9 levels. And each of those levels kind of has more responsibilities or different ones. The more basic you are, the more supervision you're going to need, and the less you're going to be able to really do on your own. So once you start, getting more experience and more comfortable with what you're doing, you can have more responsibility to do those things.
So you talked about legacy aircraft. Is that you calling old aircraft like the F-16?
Yes.
Is that a nice way to say old?
Yeah.
So is that what you call your dad? Like he's a legacy?
Yeah, legacy kind of guy. Yeah.
That's a good term. So that legacy left are like the F-16? What Air Force like F-16s?
Yeah, 16s, 15s. I think A-10s would technically be legacy. Those are at least the main ones that I know of. I think when you start getting into like bombers, that's its own category. Right. So, the 52s, the B2s. B2s are still pretty secretive. I don't know too much about those.
Right.
But yeah, just like the size of the teams that work on them change, and what they have to do is a lot different.
So a couple questions. We're gonna pivot to England. So you're in England. We definitely know it's different. We know that they speak a different form of English. Yeah. They have really bad teeth. I've been there before. It's one of those things I can't figure out, but sorry if anybody's English is listening, but so you're in England. You've been able to do a lot of stuff. You're into traveling.
Oh yeah,
outdoor. Like what places have you been able to visit while you're out in the UK?
So the UK itself it's beautiful. There's a lot of history there. So I've been to London a couple of times. London's a really unique city. So I've never been to a major city other than like Columbus, and that's not really a major city. People have been to New York, kind of compare them. I've never been there, but London's really split between modern and historic. So, one corner of the city, you'll be, a lot of historic buildings. And then there's some that are, super modern. And it's really unique. Scotland and Ireland are kind of different. And then Wales too, obviously. There's a lot more nature, and I feel like more scenery in those countries. So England's mostly farmland, to be honest with you. Right. Unless you get to the coast, there's some cool stuff, some old towns and stuff. But,
I mean, is the real answer why you want to go to London is because there's like a pub every like 50 feet?
Oh, yeah.
That's the real – I mean, come on. You're beating around the bush. It's like it's so beautiful. I can see –
just pub hop.
You can see like literally I feel like you go block and there's every single pub in the UK.
Nice. Best Guinness in the world. Drinking age is 18 there too, so that's cool.
That was the next question we asked. So the times have changed because I'm a legacy guy. That's the word we're using today instead of old. I'm legacy. Have the rules changed? So you're not 21 yet.
No.
If you look over there, Austin is drinking a non-alcoholic beverage,
ginger ale.
Ginger ale. But over in the UK, even though you're a service member who's under 21, drinking age is 18, you're allowed to drink in the UK, correct?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, so you can drink any alcohol. Some other foreign countries kind of have some different policies too. So some countries you can drink beer like 18, but you can't drink hard liquor till you're 21. Also, some countries stop serving alcohol at like 11:30, and they have to bring it to you. You can't walk around, even if you're over the age of 21. So just it kind of opens up your perspective to different places in the world of how they're different things like that work.
So you're over in the UK. You're 18. You picked up a little bit of a habit you talked about. You enjoy beer.
Oh yeah, beer's good.
Beer, scotch. Yeah, his dad just came in, and his dad is shocked right now. Your dad he can't believe that you're drinking under the age of 21. It's unbelievable. So you picked up the love of beer, right?
Oh yeah.
You picked up the love of scotch, right? And you said Irish whiskey as well. So I think this is a perfect time. We're about 35 minutes for like the featured whiskey number one. I personally don't drink a lot of scotch, so I'm going to be partaking in this because Austin, which is all joking aside, completely fucked up that he's serving his country and he's 20 years old and can't drink in the United States. So we're drinking some scotch for you. So tonight, I'm going to bite one for the ball. That's not the scotch yet. But so the first featured whiskey we have is actually pretty famous whiskey Lagavulin 11-year Offerman edition, the Guiness Cask strength, because you said you were into beer as well. So this is actually an 11-year, a 92 proof scotch with a mash bill of 100% malted barley. And it is distilled by Lagavulin, which was founded, unlike a lot of the when we talk about bourbon, this was founded way back in 1816. And it's actually from the village of Lagavulin. Have you been up there yet?
I have not.
Okay. And on the island of, it's in Scotland, so you visited Scotland, but I haven't been up there yet. But it's actually the Lagavulin is actually world renowned for being a super smoky peated whiskey, which I absolutely love. But I'm gonna have some sips of that for you to do that. But what's interesting about Lagavulin is it's actually owned by a company that we talked about before, is Diageo, which is a multinational beverage company that's actually located in London. The original Offerman came out in 2019. So the folks that don't know that is actually Nick Offerman starred in as Ron Swanson in Parks and Recreation, which is, if you haven't watched that, it's completely awesome. During that whole show, we talked about how much he loves Scotch, in particular Lagavulin. And after that, he actually became a brand ambassador for Lagavulin. And then in 2019, a collaboration with him and the master distiller at Lagavulin, they created the original Offerman edition, which is pretty funny, pretty popular. And then actually last year, 2021, they came out with the actual Offerman Guinness Cask strength finish, aged 4 months in Guinness barrels, which you love Guinness, you said. So I'll have it for you because, of course, you're not able to drink. Maybe we'll send some home to your dad, and your dad will be able to sit down and share it with you. So I look forward to having this because I just love peat and smokiness. It's really good.
Campfire in your mouth.
And now I know why I don't like it. No, it's good. That's actually not that bad. So I remember that. Now the next one we go to it'll be all right, but we'll make it. So, oh man, the smell. I don't know how you like that.
Ardbegg's pretty good too. Yeah.
All you Scotch folks, good for you. So you're over in the UK now. You've been there almost a year. What other hobby? You said you picked up some hobbies there. You've been one of your new things is photography, right?
Yeah. So actually, right before I left here to go over there, I got myself a nice camera, and it was one of those things I always wanted to do when I was younger. I liked making movies. With my friends, we'd make like little, street fight movies with like wiffle ball bats and stuff. Add a bunch of sound effects. It'd just be like something entertaining for us. I got older. I took some classes in high school and just really loved like the whole graphic design and Photoshop, all that stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I get myself a camera and start working on that over there? And so far, it's just been really fun. And I'm pretty lazy. I haven't actually put anything together, but I have all the footage, but need to actually do it. Been teaching myself how to play guitar, and big outdoor guy. So pretty much every weekend I spend my time out in the woods. Got a couple buddies who come out there with me, and we'll just hang out and we'll make like little forts, something, just enjoy the views. There's some good views in England, but yeah, just, find some time to do stuff.
Well, it's one of those things I think I talked to your dad. He's here when we first decided we were going to go there. I think as a parent, somebody your age to say, oh my gosh, they're going to be, a quarter of the way across the world. So have your parents visited you yet?
No.
Shame on you, Joe. Come on. Shame on you. No, I'm kidding. No, it's been a rough time. So that's a good trip. But I'm actually pretty excited. I think that's pretty neat. As a parent, I'd be torn about that. My wife doesn't like me saying this, and I don't say a lot in front of my son, which actually my oldest is over there somewhere. Sorry. I call my kids my stuff when I talk to her about it. Like I like to have my stuff close. I always feel better when I can touch my stuff. That doesn't sound right, does it? But I can understand that feeling as a parent where 20 years old. Actually, you left when you were 19, right? Or were you 20?
I was 18 actually.
I
really left for the military.
No, when you went to the UK though.
I was still 19.
Yeah. So 19, you go a quarter way across the world. I'm super excited for it. I love when you post pictures and seeing you with some of the pictures that we actually posted you and London. I think it's pretty amazing. I don't think your mom, it's probably your dad. Your dad's probably way softer than your mom when it comes to that. Actually,
yeah, probably pretty soft guy.
But so you said you went to UK, Scotland. Have you been like to Germany, any other countries yet? Have you been able to?
So I've been to
venture out?
Scandinavia.
Okay.
I've been in Scandinavia. Absolutely love it there. Nothing bad to say about there. They have fish for breakfast. You know, like you'll wake up, fish for breakfast. I absolutely loved it. Everything there is perfect. You can drink water out of the tap. It's like the best water you've ever had. The people there, beautiful. They don't know it, but yeah, they're awesome.
Do they like the piano? Do they like the piano?
You know, I played one time and I did turn some heads. I was like, I might have to, get a ring next time I'm back here. And then I was able to go to Eastern Europe too, and that was a lot of fun. It's a little bit different. Eastern Europe, you can still kind of see the remnants of, the Cold War and all that stuff that happened there. It's still pretty present. But once again, Europe's really cool. There's a lot of history there. If you're someone who likes that kind of stuff and scenery, it's just beautiful.
So is this the time that you're telling your parents that you're actually going to stay in?
Yeah, I'm not leaving. Yeah,
you're not coming back
this
ever.
This is actually my formal.
Your formal. I'm just going to Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing some more traveling while you're there? Do you have anything like on the books or?
Absolutely, yeah. I know we're looking at Spain and with some of the friends and Greece, Italy, all those places, and I'm definitely going back to Scandinavia.
What's I mean, other than drinking out of the tap water, what else is? I mean,
just the views there. The views there are beautiful, and kind of how they operate is just differently. So everyone there does 2 years mandatory service. So everyone's mindset's a lot different. They're really kind of helpful to one another. They help each other out, and like the places are just really clean. The cities are clean. It's really self-sufficient. You go there, and I don't want to say no one really helps you in the stores, but it's just like very organized. Like you just kind of do your stuff and get out. Driving there is cool. The cars are nice there. I just liked everything about it.
So do you have a car in the UK now or no?
I do. Yeah, it's kind of a beater. It's a Ford Focus. I've done some work on it, but it gets me around.
Ford Focus.
Got to save money,
So you're driving on the wrong side of the road over there?
Yep.
How was that? How was that adjustment? Because I went over. I used to go over to the UK every other year, in my old job, and I wanted to drive. And I did it one time, and the guy I was with was like completely freaking out because I was freaking out too. It was like, oh my God, everything is such the opposite. So how long did it take you to get used to?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty quick. The funniest thing was when I got picked up from the airport, I went right for the passenger side, but it's actually the driver's side. So the guy said, "Hey, you want to drive?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, just already." But it makes sense because the steering wheel's on that side, like towards the middle of the road. So once you kind of start driving, it makes more sense that you're looking at the center line. So like when I came back here, it's only been a couple of days now. I didn't get in any accidents yet, so I think we're fine. Just the transition's not too bad.
You're not driving down the left side of the road. If you do,
there might have been a couple roundabouts, but it's fine.
Right down the road, they're freaking out. What is this guy doing? No, that is one of it is funny you talk about being in the UK, which everybody would think we speak the same language, very similar, but it is a very different place than the US for sure. So what you said, Spain. Where else are you guys hoping to go? Like you're gonna want to? I mean, I guess the rephrase that is, the world has changed a little bit in the past couple of months. Are you guys?
Yeah, travel's definitely gotten easier out of there.
Okay.
Like I said, the UK itself has a lot of stuff, and I feel bad. I haven't even really seen much of the UK other than England. I've had a lot of friends go to Scotland and Wales and Ireland. They said it's awesome. So I think that I just kind of need to open up a little bit more and actually start seeing stuff now that travel's getting easier over there. Just, a lot of even on planes, like, you don't have to have some COVID tests for certain countries now. You don't have to wear masks on planes, stuff like that. So it's just getting a lot more easy to do stuff, a lot less forms, paperwork.
So your career is a couple of years now. So we talked about probably, I would think the worst part of your career was ringing the bell or blowing the horn. Is that still the worst part of your Air Force career? Is there something worse than that?
I would say that was probably the worst, but I think that you can still turn it into something good. Like we were talking about earlier, it's refocusing. So it's like kind of like when you feel like you hit rock bottom in life, but you can still kind of bounce back from it. It's not the end of the world. You still went through, and a lot of people say they would do something like that. A lot of keyboard warriors, and like at least trying out, you feel a little bit better about yourself, but definitely still kind of hurts your confidence and confuses you a little bit on what to make of it. Pick up the pieces a little bit.
So how did the other how does your unit treat you, knowing that did a lot of people know that you?
I usually don't.
You didn't you don't share with it.
I try not to talk about it too much, but some people start to know, and they look up to you for it, and sometimes you're also expected to be more, like, hey, bring the muscle, bring the meathead. But I mean, I don't mind.
Bring the guy that can actually run and do push-ups.
Yeah, this guy who can walk the mile and a half. Yeah, bring that guy. Yeah, so it's not too bad.
And I brought that back because I think that's the thing is I think a lot of them won't. It kind of goes on the tone you talked about before. Is I think although it's a failure to a lot of people, like I told you earlier, I think it takes a lot of balls to even go for it in the first time. And I think a lot of people, when they really step back and look at themselves, they know they don't have the balls to go for it. So it's natural that when they do meet somebody, even though they weren't in terms didn't make it, that they're still kind of like, holy shit, this person, let's give it a go. So originally wanted to be a pararescueman. Now you work on F-35s. You got how much longer in your initial enlistment?
So I only have 4 years of not having rights left. So
okay. So have you decided? Is this a career path, or are you still undecided? Or
I don't know yet. So I feel like that's kind of the fun part about life is sometimes you just kind of let it happen and it'll take you the way you need to go. Like I'm happy with my job now. It's fun. I like the people I work with. Pretty much everyone that I've worked with so far is just awesome to be around. Great leadership and I like that aspect of the job. The job itself, it's maintenance is like, I would say maintenance after leaving that community, after selection, I think maintenance is probably the best career field that I could have went into after, just because they have like a pretty tight bond too. You have a lot of hard stuff you have to do, a lot of long hours, a lot of just hands deep, and just shit sometimes. So I don't mind. Career field, I mean, I don't know about a career. Like 20 years sounds like a long time, but at the same time, like 38 years old, retirement. I don't know about active
GI
duty.
Bill.
GI Bill, get my education.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you stay in, where are you hoping to get stationed next? I feel like you should go further away from your parents. Just like your dad. I think it's just keep going further. I don't know. Go Hawaii maybe this time. Go bypass them. Go
Australia is actually halfway around the world. We'll see if there's bases out there. Yeah, just as far as possible.
So if you stay in, where would you like to go? Real answer. What
honestly, I think it kind of depends on what aircraft you're on. It's kind of restricted to because they put all this money and stuff for that training. So I'm not really sure what base would be open by the time I'm out of there. But I mean, maybe I'll have a chance to go somewhere else around the world, other than back to the States. But I don't really know. Honestly, I'm cool with whatever.
The word is in that you're not coming back to the States if you can't see that.
Far away as from Ohio.
And I think your mom might be on her watching, saying that she's going next year. I can't see if that's her name, but sorry to break the news. No, which I think is great. I mean, you figure your enlistment's over in what, a couple years?
4 years.
So you're 22 years. I mean, you do another 4 years. It's 26. That's you still got a lot of life in front of you, and the opportunity. I think that's one of the great things about being in the military. Especially when you do go overseas, not for deployments per se, that you get stationed overseas. It's a great opportunity to learn something, to experience a different culture, and that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that now, of course, if like one of my sons was going, I'd be
freaking out.
Going to fit maybe, but that's all right. So say you decide to get out, you're kind of like the Zen guy, which I've always loved about you. You always have like a really grounded thing. So if you decide to get out, you're going to go to college, or what's your thoughts? Have you thought about that?
So I think the best thing that you can do, at least while in, is set yourself up to have some options. So at least in the Air Force, I'm not sure about the Army or, the Marines, Navy. We have something called the CCAF. It's like the career field or Air Force Community College or something like that, right? So you can work on an education. They have like, hey, you can take this many classes a year with, this amount. So you can start knocking out some college already without the GI Bill. So I think if a lot of people kind of neglect that and they'll wait till they're at the end of that enlistment and they're like, hey, I don't have a plan. Might as well stay in, even though they might like not like their job or not want to stay in. So some people kind of feel backed in if they don't make options for themselves. So that's one of my biggest plans is, giving myself those options and trying to figure out more. Like the military is great about that, where you can kind of figure yourself out and it's not like you're losing anything. I'm at least getting paid, I have benefits. And, if I was back home, instead of just going to college for something I didn't want to do, I feel like a lot better off, in the military.
Right. So, and then a lot of people aren't listening. I do try to tone it back into things. So, Austin will qualify for, I guess it's the post 9/11 GI Bill is what it's called now, right?
Yeah, post 9.
So it's a little bit different than when I came in, but it's a pretty amazing benefit for veterans now. They pay you like I think they pay half of your BAH as an E5 while you're attending university. They pay for a huge amount of your education. So definitely one of the great benefits I think a lot of folks don't realize about. You do 4 years, 6 years, 8 years that you're able to walk back in and not be burdened with college debt, which a lot of us have, or a lot of us will have going to college. So if you go to school, is there anything that you're thinking about majoring in now, or are you still not something you don't even think about?
Honestly, I have thought about it, especially recently. I feel like I've always been good with people. I've always been pretty good at reading people and stuff. So either maybe do something that I can do like maybe psychology, or maybe even like look into like education, like just at least maybe getting people in, the right steps and trying to help them out. But more than anything, like I feel like my biggest calling has always been like helping people. So that's why I originally wanted to do pararescues, save lives. So I think I'd probably like to stick with something like that, maybe looking at some kind of trauma care, or, helping people that kind of way. But I think regardless, like what kind of makes you happy, what you feel like you get the most satisfaction out of is important.
So any plans of following in your father's footsteps for law enforcement?
If mom's listening, probably not, but there's always a chance.
So what you're telling me is there's a chance. See that, Joey's?
Yeah, there's a chance.
All right. I feel like that was probably the hardest pour I've had to drink in a long time. Note to self, don't pour that much next time. But let's move into I guess we'll move into the second featured whiskey. We'll get back more to, again, I try to keep it on the theme of you're not drinking whiskey, but we'll drink some, the whiskeys that you've learned to drink over there in the UK. So our next featured whiskey for tonight is actually from High West. It's Campfire, which, believe it or not, to my excitement, has Scotch in it. I'm so excited to have more Scotch. I think it's the most Scotch I've drank in probably like 10 years, to be honest with you. But High West is actually located in Park City, Utah. And if I can figure out how to open this, it might be good there. And this is one of their interesting products. This product is actually a blend of 2 ryes, a bourbon, and also a Scotch. So it's not age stated. The internet talks about being anywhere from 4 to 8 years old. It has a proof of 92. It does consist of 2 rye mash bills. One is a 95.5 for the people that know whiskey. That's an MGP, and they also have an 80% rye, 20% malted barley rye in there, which comes from High West. And the bourbon is actually a 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley, another MGP. And then actually interesting about, as much as I try to find out the Scotch, they will not talk about where it comes from. So this is kind of a very unique, again, very smoky, which I love. Apparently, I'm gonna put a lot in here if you don't mind that. There you go. That's about it. So, what's interesting about this product is that this distillery was started another a micro distillery, and that originally started out in Utah. It was actually bought out in 2016 by Constellation Brands. The original owner, which was David Perkins, he remains on there as like a brand ambassador. But they started this distillery in 2016, sold it 10 years later for a profit of $160 million, which is, I think, a pretty good turnover. The Campfire is no longer sold anywhere outside of the distillery and saloon that they have on site. So if you see this or you still have it, this is kind of a unique thing unless you make your way out to Utah. So thank you again for this lovely peated smoky.
No problem, Legacy.
It's so yummy. It's so yummy. So you talked about a little bit like the beer, like we don't want to talk about alcohol, but you found you've really gotten into beer. So you're talking about, you want a chance to talk about beer. So here's your chance to talk about beer. So tell us about beer, and for the love of God, before you talk about beer, go on record and tell me what you think of White Claw or Bush Apple before. You can either answer before or after.
All right, we'll just get started. I mean, it's not really beer though.
Okay.
It's not really beer. That's kind of like that's like a poor college kid drink. Like, I'm not a big fan of that stuff. I think that Europe in general just has like good wheat beers. Um, I think Belgian beer is probably my favorite. I've also had some stuff. I had an Icelandic beer before. It's called Einstock. That stuff is awesome. Um, Orville's really good. It was made by monks for a long time, and then I think in the I think it was like the 1970s. I think they actually made their.
You see his face
distillery.
like 1970s, like it was like
Yeah,
I
that's
looked
so
at
long ago.
I looked
Yeah,
at
so long
1816
ago.
and like that's one thing. He's like 1970, like oh that's so
Ancient.
old. I mean, did you see his look? I'm gonna rewind that. He was like way back in 1970. That wasn't
Like
that long
100
ago,
years
did it?
ago.
It was 50 years ago, but that's true. But so
Yeah.
so beer, like the wheated beers, like are you like
Yeah,
is
I
that
think-
what your primary thing is?
yeah,
You said
wheat
you're
beers
into
are good.
tequila. What else?
Stout's pretty heavy, but like I said, Guinness on tap in England is awesome because they know how to pour it right, and when it's cold and stuff, it's just really good. But it's one of those things too, like you can kind of like have it as almost like a dessert or compliment, like a food. It's not like something that you just drink a ton of. Guinness, I wouldn't. It's really heavy. Kind of.
So you brought up food in the UK because I would think that you would drink
Yeah.
it would be the exact opposite. You drink the Guinness before because the
Right,
food
give it some
the food
seasoning,
is
right?
not
Give
a
it some
good
flavor,
the
right?
food in England is not my favorite thing. So except for like a proper English, have you had that yet?
No, I have not. Like a breakfast?
Yeah, the breakfast like the
beans for
everything,
breakfast,
like
yeah.
beans. You haven't had that yet?
No, I have. It's always so small though. The portions are tiny. It's like I'm eating for a kid. It's like the Happy Meal of breakfast.
And a Guinness, all the kind of stuff. But so like like you're into now. You said of whiskeys. This is a whiskey podcast, so you're more into the Scotch or the Irish whiskey.
I think just something about the flavor of Irish whiskey. It's like really smooth and it's almost got like kind of like a caramel kind of taste to it. I kind of like that. It's really smooth and I'm not a big bourbon guy. I said it. Yeah. But
maybe you should actually stay in the UK for the rest of your life.
yeah, it's meant to be, right? I only got one ticket, so I'm yeah, that's it.
You can't go back. That's all right though. So now you've had we kind of went to, I think we talked about a lot of stuff here. It's pretty interesting. As we close here, I think one of the amazing things that I've been impressed by, it's hysterical to have you back on and 8 years and talk to you about this, is like I feel like you're still as calm and cool as you were 8 years ago. You always have a positive outlook. And one of the things that this podcast, my hopes were to actually be able to talk to people that have had some shitty things happen and be able to be positive about it. I really got to commend you on your positivity from the whole thing. Of how you dealt with adversity so young. I mean, a lot of people at what happened to it at an early age in the military career would have been like, screw this. I'm a mechanic on an F-35. I kind of threw that beach ball up to you to see if you'd say that. And you didn't surprise me on how I thought you'd answer it. Either you're a really good liar or
yes,
or
yes,
or and if you're lying, be honest. That's what the whole point
Yeah.
about this. Like, so I mean, there's got to be a disappointment, but I think most people in life, as things are thrown your way, like you have to recover from it. If you don't, that's where you go down that downward spiral that affects a lot of us. And it could happen it could happen really quick in your military career or your professional career, or it could happen at, like 15 or 20 years. So it doesn't matter if you're new into a career or you're a seasoned vet. It can happen to you, and that disappointment can either propel you to something more positive, which is apparently beer, photographs, building
Just
forts,
hobbies,
building forts in the woods, and playing the guitar. So I think before we close out, we've got to see you play something on the guitar. So we have the guitar down here. You got to show us something that you've been playing before we go in there. We're putting you on the spot.
All right.
You got to reach down and you can grab it. This will be our first. Everyone, this is our first official musical guest. Airman First Class, Austin Murray. He tuned it up before. Did you even tune it up? I didn't think you did you?
It sounds good enough.
And apparently the Air Force doesn't give him enough money to go get a pick properly, so he's using
An old Target gift card.
Target gift card. So remember that. Here comes a tune. So what are you gonna play?
All right, so I think this will actually fit the theme of the podcast pretty well. So we're talking about graduation earlier.
Okay.
Never got to listen to those cheesy, graduation songs.
Okay.
So I got a pretty cheesy graduation song to play. I might get more comfortable here real quick.
And Joe, for the God's sake, buy the kid a pick. You have a guitar you have a piano in your house, don't you? I mean, get the kid a pick. There we go. Our first musical guest, Austin Murray. You only had a pick.
Thanks, Target.
All right, look at that. Our first musical guest. Pretty amazing. I feel like I should have sang something with him. Thank God. And wow, I mean, just beat up that guitar. Holy cow.
Oh, Neil Young.
Oh, his dad actually called
Nice.
us up. Pick it up. Your dad called for
right.
some Neil Young, so I think you should play some Neil Young for your dad. And this gives me time to get some real whiskey. It's so bad. It's so bad, guys.
Nah, it's just
Give him a real pick. Get it.
use a cord.
Get it. Oh, is it
That took him on aim.
Nice recovery. Nice recovery. I would critique that, but you played way longer than I could ever play. So pretty impressed. So that's all self-taught.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And your dad brought you in there quick. I think your dad set you up for failure. I felt the first song you were rocking it. The second one, a couple mistakes, but that's all right. I mean, he needs to practice a little bit, but stop drinking so much beer. Stop chasing the Scandinavian women, because that's what you were talking about scenery. I felt like you were talking about more than just the
I might have been alluding to some things.
I'm sure you were the political answer. So I do want to thank Austin for coming on board. I wanted to say safe, but thank you for shifting your schedule. I know you just got here a couple of days ago, and I want to thank your family for allowing me to steal you away here for a little bit. Having you on is super special. I can't tell you, it's for all the people that there's a couple of them that have already been on the podcast. This is really special, considering how long I've known you. You're one of my middle son's first friends when he moved here 8 years ago, or 9 years ago now. So it's pretty amazing to see
Funny story.
you guys
behind
growing
that,
into
too,
it. Well, tell that story. You should tell that story so Nate can hear
Okay.
it.
I remember just seeing a new guy walking in the cafeteria.
Like a big guy. Like
Yeah, just a
there's
big
different
guy.
size differences between Austin and my son Nate. So
yeah, it's kind of weird, but it makes me feel really insecure, like Farquaad or something. But my brother actually said he just met a new guy named Ben, and said that he had a brother in my grade. I saw this new guy walking for like 2 days. The cafeteria sitting like next to nobody. So I went up to him like, "Hey, what's up?" And I said his name. And he was like, "How did you know that?" And then from then on, like we've been like best buds. So.
yeah, it's always you guys have been pretty tight for a long time. It's pretty funny, and the people that know that probably did throw him off that somebody knew him. He's a super quiet guy. Doesn't like to talk. He's exactly like his father in so many ways. But no, No, it's pretty amazing. I can't thank you enough for coming here. I can't thank you enough for taking the evening to spend time with us here and talk to the listeners here. And I know your time's short, and believe it or not, 3 weeks goes by really fast. So I really appreciate you coming on. So one of the things we've been doing throughout the podcast is it comes time to talk about the bad part about being a veteran, which as many people that are listening know that on average 22 of us a day are killing ourselves. And tonight we'd like to take the opportunity to remember one of our fellow service members that have fallen into that unfortunate 22. So tonight we want to talk about another Air Force person, Air Force Senior Airman Jasmine Lovett, who was 22 years old. Jasmine was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on May 14th, 2018. Jasmine was actually born in October 24th, 1995 in Georgia. After graduating from high school in 2014, she enlisted into the Air Force as Air Force Security Forces. At the time of her death, she had been on active duty for 4 years, and she was serving with the 27th Special Operations Security Forces Squadron at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. During her time, that short time on life, Jasmine was known for loving choir, cheerleading, and also love animals. What's pretty interesting about her story is about 2 weeks after her death, the Ladies of Victorious Endings, which is called Love in Georgia, actually founded the Jasmine Lovett Memorial Scholarship. And according to one of the spokesmen at Love, Jasmine had a passion for tutoring and encouraging the youth. She found that obtaining any education was a key aspect of being successful. And this is why we believe that this is something that she would be super proud of. So again, tonight we'd like to honor Jasmine Lovett again, and like the message we put out for any veteran out there or any person out there and anybody they may know that's struggling. There's always help out there. My phone's always on most of the time. It's always on all the time. So you can give me a call or call anybody that you think is important. Don't send me a message about getting tortillas because I messed that up tonight. Obviously, there's somebody in the background laughing about that. But in all seriousness, if you do need help, I'm not a professional, but there are tons of professionals that'll help you. You absolutely need to call the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Once you get there, press 1. If you don't want to talk to anybody, you can actually text 838-255, and it's completely confidential, which is one of the things we haven't talked about before. And one of those things that a lot of people are worried about. I don't want to talk about it, but whether you text or call 1-800-273-8255 or text 838-255, completely confidential. And those people are there to help. And if it's super important. One of the things I've talked about here is everybody struggles. People handle failure in the wrong way, but there's always a best option. I posted today from a personal quote in my life. Actually, my wife said that even a broken crayon can color. So we'll end it at that. And I just want to thank you again, Austin, for coming on. Good luck in England. Good luck in Scandinavia.
More unseasoned
to see
food.
all the scenery, the good scenery over there. And we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. Thanks for tuning in.